just win. We're gonna thrive. Go, 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 oh, shout it aloud. In the summer sun, we're a summer-loving crowd. Talking Brazil ball, we're breaking it down.
Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Talking Brazil Ball. We're here once again to talk about all things Brazilian football, all things Brasileirão. I'm your host James Brook. I'm here once again, as always, with my brother George. How are we doing today, George?
Yeah, not too bad, James. You know, another week ticks on, another few match days have gone, and managerial situations have been sorted and other things. So there's a lot to get through here today. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. As you said, plenty to talk about, as always, with the Brasileirão. There's been 2 match days since we last spoke, and like you said, there plenty of managerial discussion to be had. We've been enjoying it. It's really tight up at the top. It's really kind of getting to grips with things at the bottom as well. It's looking like it's going to be another good show, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, James. It's looking like a good one. You know, we've got a couple of good games. Sorry, not derbies, both of them, but some good games nevertheless. One right at the bottom of the table, which sees another team in a real dire need of a win again, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's always folks in need of something. Well, before we get into it, George, let's, as usual, get a run through of what's been going on in the Brasileirão since we last spoke. As I said, there's been 2 full match weeks. Every team has played twice since our last meeting. So do you want to run through that and just let everybody know, get everybody up to date with what's been happening in Brazil the last week?
Well, as always, James, it would be a pleasure of mine to give you the scores. So we started on Wednesday, the 26th of June. Botafogo 2, Red Bull Bragantino 1, Cruzeiro 2, Atletico Paranaense 0. Into Thursday, 27th of June then, Geo 1, Grêmio 1, Corinthians 1, Cuiabá 1, Juventude 2, Flamengo 1, Bahia 2, Vasco 1, Fortaleza 3, Palmeiras 0, Inter 1, Galo 2, Flu 0, Vitória 1. Don't worry, I'll come back to that one, James. And then into Friday, the 28th of June, Sao Paulo 2, Criciúma 1. Then the match day that we're focusing on in today's episode, starting on Saturday the 29th of June, Cuiabá 1, RB Bragantino 1, Vasco da Gama 1, Botafogo 1. Into Sunday the 30th, Galo 1, Geo 1, Fortaleza 2, Juventude 1, Grêmio 1, Fluminense 0, Sao Paulo 3, Bahia 1, Criciúma 1, Inter 1, Flamengo 2, Cruzeiro 1, Vitória 0, Atletico Paranaense 1. And the matchday finished this morning, James, UK time, with Palmeiras 2, Corinthians 0 in the Paulista derby.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was some big results there. And again, some, as we'll learn in a moment, some quite costly results happening very recently indeed. But yeah, like you said, George, we have to come back to it. It was the Talking Brazil Ball derby on Wednesday, was it, or Thursday? I can't remember the day exactly. Thursday, wasn't it? Yeah. Inter 1, Galo 2. Yeah, how did you find that one? And it was a very, very late winner, wasn't it?
Well, thank goodness they're playing. 7 minutes have added on time, James, is all I can say. Romelu got the winner, the young centre-back. Might have been in a case for, young player of the round if we were to cover it. But, yeah, fantastic win. I think Galo needed it, really, didn't they? They've been on a little bit of a struggle, and they continue to struggle a little bit in the previous game that went afterwards against Geo as well. So in different form for Galo, but yeah, obviously enjoyed that one, a win. Not often I get to celebrate my team beating your team. So there you go. One for the history books, possibly.
Well, you say that, but I think last time, well, actually not last time. Last time was a bit of a battering on it, but the time before that, you were beat us at Anfield, beat Liverpool at Anfield, Leeds. So that was a late winner as well that day. So perhaps there's a new theme kind of forming. But he wasn't on the pitch long, was he?
So,
Romelu?
no, he wasn't. He came on, I think, in the.
He was on for about 10
I'm
minutes,
not-
I think.
Yeah, he came on in the 79th minute, so he wasn't on for long. Got the win. I think it was a header, if I can remember correctly. But me calling myself a fan, I can't even remember the goal. But yeah, it was a good. It was a good win, that one, James.
Yeah, disappointing for Inter, and it just seems to be a bit stop-start for them at the moment. As again this week, a 1-1 draw with Krishuma. They can't seem to fully make use of those games in hands and start to boost up the table. It just seems to be a win and then a couple of wins, a couple of draws, and they can't get anything kind of sustained going at the minute. Inter, a bit like Gallo, and they are 10th and 11th in the table. Inter do still have a lead over Gallo on, I don't know what it's on. I think it's goals conceded. I think that's the way they're doing it, or perhaps games played, because Inter are 10th and Gallo are 11th. They've got the same amount of points and the same goal difference. Gallo have scored more, but Inter have conceded less. So I don't know exactly how they do it. It might be on games played. I'm not sure that's why they're ahead. But at least I've got a silver lining, George. They're still holding their own just above you over there. So still a long way to go.
There you go. Long way to go. We'll meet again whenever it is. I don't know when the return fixture is.
No idea.
No. But I'm sure we might even cover that one if we, if it's not in between time. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. See you in Belo Horizonte, and we'll
absolutely. Yeah.
Well, moving on to this weekend's action, as George said, the match day finished only this morning, a 2-0 win for Palmeiras over Corinthians, and there's been a bit of breaking news on the back of that, George, hasn't there? It was your game of the week, and we've just seen before we've come on air, just shortly before we've come on air, that the manager Antonio Oliveira has actually been sacked. So, George, what are your thoughts on that? It did seem like it was coming, and do you think it was a reasonable reaction to the result of this morning's game?
Yeah, I do, James. I mean, I initially, I was thinking, today when I thought, yeah, we're looking at the game, and I thought if Oliveira hadn't gone, he was asking the fans for patience before the game, and I thought, you know what? If he doesn't go after they've lost that one, no disgrace losing to Palmeiras. It was a derby game, heated affair. I'll talk about a moment. A real. I know you like your flashpoints, James. There's a real messy one in this game. But I was sort of thinking maybe he gets 1 or 2 more games, maybe just to see. If he can make it up for them, they've got Vitória coming up, which is massive, and then they've got Cruzeiro. The 2 games that maybe you might think maybe give him an opportunity. Perhaps if he didn't beat Vitória at home, on Friday, maybe that would have been the nail in the coffin. They've decided to go early and sack him. I think it's fair. Corinthians should be battling up further up the table. The 19th position on single figure points, James, from 13 games. No wins now since the end of April. That's no wins in 8 for Corinthians. So, yeah, it was deserved. It obviously hasn't worked. He came from Cuiabá in the summer, didn't he? And it just hasn't worked. And he had to go, really. They've just got nothing really, nothing. They haven't started well at all. And that some players like Wesley, like the young lad Wesley, and, they've got Yuri Alberto, who we've spoken about in the past. And they're just not performing. It was really time for him to go.
Yeah, they've only won 1. Sorry, they've only won 1 in the first 13 games, and they've seen both. They've seen Fluminense. Obviously, Fluminense sacked the manager last week, and we'll see if that has an effect. But I feel the same. I think if they'd have hung on for 1 more game and perhaps seen if a win over Vitória would be enough to kind of springboard a kind of a bit of a march up the table, and that would have seemed fair to me, because it isn't long to give a manager a third of a season, but as we know, they don't give him a lot of time. I think it must be said as well that Corinthians should be battling higher up the table, but they were in a similar position last year. They did have a similar kind of season where they were struggling towards the bottom, and it wasn't until late on that they really rallied and pushed on and stayed up. So I think the club and the fans probably have to have a look and think, well, what were we really expecting? And like you said, he was coming from Cuiabá. He wasn't a massively experienced manager, and it feels to me as though if they'd have been probably 5 or 6 points better off, I think he'd have still been in a job. But I think when you're looking at, like you said, single figure points, 1 win out of 13, the first 13, it does start to become a little bit untenable, doesn't it? And a derby game, it feels like the same with Denise, wasn't it, with the flat flu, and obviously a similar situation here where they've probably thought, you know what, it's a good time just to do it. Let's just nobody will argue too much if it happens. So yeah, some breaking news there, and we'll wait to see. There has been a favourite installed, hasn't there, George? I believe.
Well, yeah, there's the man at Santos, Fabio Carril, who has Santos a second in Serie B at the moment, going quite well, bit on and off the form. But he's been manager of Corinthians before. He's been interim manager as well, taken charge in the past for quite a lengthy period of time. While they're looking for a new manager, so he's liked by them. Obviously, they've got to. They need Santos's approval for negotiations to go ahead. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on. But he has been there before, James. And we say Corinthians only 1 win the whole season, and you know who that was against, don't you?
I can't remember. I remember it being, was it Flamengo?
It was Fluminense. They only 1 win, and they beat them 3-0. And you're thinking then at the end of April, oh gosh, maybe they're going to rise up the table, but it just hasn't happened for Oliveira. It's time for him to go. The game itself, James, was actually quite tight. You know what I mean? And this is why, in a way, in the overall picture, it was fair enough, I think, to sack him. I think doing it after this game is a little bit harsh, because they were in the game with Corinthians. They were in the game up until the first goal, which came 8 minutes into the second half. It was a lovely goal, to be fair. I don't know if you've seen it, James. Fabino, sorry. Really nice goal.
Well, it's like a deflected goal.
Was it a deflection? I couldn't tell, to be fair, but this is a young lad.
You don't know what's gone on, then I'll tell you what's gone on. Rafael Vega's taken the free kick. You were thinking the free kick taker scored the goal, aren't you? No. Have a look again. Fabinho's on the floor and he kind of heads it in off the floor. It's like a deflection off him, but he's directed it in.
Right.
I wouldn't call it a lovely goal, but it's an interesting goal.
Well, I to be fair, James, I thought it came direct from the free kick, and then I saw Vega got the assist, and then I thought, well, did I see it right? Did he pass the ball to him? Did he take a short free kick and then him curl it in off the post? But it was an interesting goal then. But it was a bit kind of good sort of improvisation from him. Only a young lad. I think that's his first goal for the team as well.
Yeah,
what a way to get his first goal. Only a young 22-year-old. Obviously, the other man scored the goal as a young boy as well. But we might hang on and speak about that one in a little bit later. But look, Palmeiras, they needed a big result, having come off that massive shock result against Fortaleza, that 3-0 defeat. Before that, they were looking pretty handy, 5 wins in a row, interrupted by Fortaleza, but they're back on it now with that derby win. Like I said, they were down to 10 men for 25 minutes left of the game. Rafael Vega got his marching orders, and this was now maybe you've seen a little bit more of this, James. Have you seen this flashpoint here?
No, I haven't.
I think I'm not 100% certain, because as we know, it's a little bit confusing sometimes, and obviously it's all done in Portuguese. But I think this is where he got the red card in the 64th minute. There's a real ruckus in. I don't know if he said something to one of the Corinthians fellas, but suddenly everybody's on the pitch. The subs are on the pitch. Everybody's on the pitch, sort of having words, 1 or 2 fights and things breaking out. And I think that's where he gets his red card. But doesn't look too obvious what happened. Maybe he put in a late challenge or something, and the Corinthians man didn't like it. But it was a real sort of melee and all sorts of handbags going on there. And I think that's where he must have got his red card. But that's me only assuming, to be honest.
Yeah, it sounds a bit like it.
I think it was, but then again, and they had 25 minutes against 10 men, did Corinthians, and they still couldn't find anything. So yeah, it's got to improve. It's got to improve for them. But Palmeiras roll on, and they look a real handful. To be fair, James, I mean, that's Fabinho behind me there, behind my left shoulder there. Looks like he's telling the time. I think Estavio's doing the cold Parma thing, isn't he? But
that's Vega on the back.
Oh, is that Vega?
Yeah, that's Vega doing the little time thing. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
okay.
Estavio's doing the. Well, it's not. I don't like people calling it the cold Parma because I don't think cold Parma had anything to do with that celebration. I think he does do it, but I think he's taking it from a basketballer or something, and now he's it's all about the Cole Palmer hype train, isn't it? I'm not on board that one at all. But yeah, that's Rafa Vega behind you, and obviously Esteban.
Because it was perhaps it was a homage to his future teammate. I thought maybe, but
well, it could have been. It could have been.
But there you go. He was, nothing to shout about in this game. But obviously, like we said, we will touch on a Palmeiras player, young lad, a bit later on in the show. But yeah, obviously, Corinthians looking for a new manager. That's the sort of take home of it, really. And they're struggling now, 8 without a win.
Yeah, and we'll see if they can get Kirill in, and like you said, Santos going quite well, as they should be really in Serie B, and we'll see if he can come and change things up. But at the minute, it's a very interesting looking bottom of the table in the Brasileirão. Is there anything else you'd like to add on there, George? Palmeiras are looking very good just off the top. Before we move on to the next game of the week.
Well, yeah, I mean Palmeiras are looking good, James. But just to touch on, the maybe manager coming in at Santos. Obviously, Santos in second place at the moment. They have been on a real bad run of form and just arrested that recently with 3 games unbeaten. But they did go 4 defeats in a row, sort of end of May to middle of June. So, but obviously, like I said before, he's well known to the Corinthians, will be well known to the Corinthians fans. I think it was the mid-2000s, early 10s maybe that he was sort of a lot of time involved in Corinthians. So let's wait and see. But like you said, Palmeiras look kind of unstoppable, really.
Yeah, they do. I think once they get this march, they do tend to be a bit kind of ominous for the rest of the league. And they've been there before. They've done it. They did it last year, a similar thing. And obviously Ferreira knows how to win this league, and it looks like it's going to be them and Flamengo battling it out at the top. Well, thank you, George. That's a good roundup and some interesting breaking news going on there, which we'll obviously hopefully have something more on next week. These things tend to move relatively quickly, don't they? They have to, the games are coming very quickly. They've got 2 games before we next meet, so I'm sure they'll have somebody in place by then. Well, the other game we looked at was again another kind of game dominated by managerial talk. It was Grêmio against Fluminense, and as we've spoken for the last few weeks, Fluminense have been just catastrophic. They're still sitting bottom of the table, and this was an absolutely massive game for them, made even bigger because after sacking Fernando Diniz last week and having what was he called, Marcao, was it, involved, the interim coach? He took charge of the midweek game against Vitória and lost that 1-0. Which was a massive blow to them, a real big defeat, that one. And they've gone and backed that up with another 1-0 loss. So things aren't getting better for Flu. Some positive news on the managerial front came yesterday. Do you remember last week we spoke, George, that they were going to give some time to Marcao? They liked him as a previous interim. They were going to give him time. Well, they made a quick snap change on that and decided not to give him time and to look for a new manager as soon as they can. And they have appointed now a chap called Mano Menezes, who has been appointed only yesterday on Monday, and he's apparently taking charge of his first training session, perhaps as we speak, George. I'm not sure. He's doing it today anyway on Tuesday. So over the sea in Rio, perhaps will Mr. Mano Menezes is taking charge of his session and getting to know his new players at Flu. He needs to get to know them quickly because this is turning into a real disaster for them. And so a bit more on Menezes. I don't know if you'd heard of him, George. I'd never heard of him at all.
I hadn't. No, you said he was a Brazilian national manager, James. When did he manage the national team?
Yep, I did indeed say that, and he was in charge of the Brazilian national team in 2010, and he was sacked eventually in 2012. So, we should perhaps remember that, but it wasn't a great Brazil side that. So, it was a team that got to the Olympics gold medal match in 2012 in London, of course, lost it to Mexico, and that was what eventually saw him get sacked. I think he seems to be kind of a little bit the antithesis of Diniz in that he's a bit more of a defensive-minded coach. A little bit more pragmatic, perhaps. Looking at the kind of the fan reaction on social media, it has not been positive, George. It has not.
No.
And I must say, a lot of that kind of coming in seems to be from rival fans, actually. And you can tell a lot sometimes by how a team's rivals react, and they have been enjoying it. I think it's safe to say that. Even Corinthians, who Menezes has won 2 Copa do Brasils with Corinthians. He won another one at Cruzeiro. So he does have pedigree. He has been a manager at Corinthians 3 times. He's been at Flamengo. He's been at Palmeiras. He's been at Inter. He's been at Grêmio. He's been in China with Shandong Luang. So he's been around a long time.
Say it again.
Shandong Luang. So obviously he knows he knows the fans. He knows the fans of these clubs. The clubs know him. So the rivals are not happy. Well, they're happy because they see, look, we've been subjected to Menezes' ball, and you're going to be subjected to it now. And it doesn't sound like it's too pretty. So I don't know what your reaction is initially to that, George. You were a very big believer in the fact that Diniz had to go. What do you think of his replacement?
Well, like I've said, I didn't know. I'd never heard of him, to be fair, and that's not me being ignorant. It's just I just didn't know of his whereabouts. But yeah, look, if it's obviously the other fans are goading the Flu fans, then that tells you everything, doesn't it? Really, I mean, Fluminense are in awful form. They haven't scored, James, for 4 games.
No.
They've actually only scored one goal in 6. So it's terminal, really. And my team have been relegated 3 times since I've been supporter of them, and you kind of know when it's that time. They don't start well. Well, they might start okay, but then sort of this sort of time of the season, it just goes awful. Might pick up again in terms of this one, maybe September time, August, September time. But, they'll go long spells with only 1 win out of 5 or 6 games, and then suddenly you're down and that's it. So I'm going to say it now, James. I think they're going to get relegated. I think it'll be close. I think they'll pick up a little bit, like I said, but I think they'll get relegated. And it's a shame for us, for fans of the Brazilian football league and everything, because you want teams. I think you said it before, but I think I echo it, that you want the big teams in the division because they're good to watch. But I don't know what you think, but I think they're going to get down.
I think we'll have to wait and see how Menezes does. I wouldn't like to say just yet. I think they've got the quality in it, obviously, to turn it around. They are 5 points from safety, which does seem quite sizable. But like I said, we're a third of the way through the season. I think there's plenty of time. I wouldn't like to commit to that just yet. I think other teams will have spells, the promoted teams. So I think it depends how Menezes does. If he comes and does poorly, that's when the mess starts really spiraling. If he comes and solidifies things, stabilizes it, and does better, then you can use it as a base. So I'd like to see I'll give him 4 or 5 games and see where it is after that, because that'll be halfway through the season. But like you said, the problem is scoring goals. They're not doing too badly in terms of conceding. They've lost 6 in a row now, but 4 of those have been by 1 goal. So it's been tight. All the games have been tight. This was another tight one. They weren't they were deservedly beaten in this. Grêmio had the much better of it, which is credit to them because they've obviously, like you said, been struggling themselves. But the problem for Flu hasn't been defending; it's been scoring goals, and that's why you look at the upcoming transfer. Well, the transfer market, I've no idea when it starts. Actually, it's really hard to
starts next
July,
week, James. I
July,
think
isn't it? It's the middle of July.
starts next week.
And I know that actually because Thiago Silva, you'll remember they signed him and he still can't play until the 11th of July, after the 11th of July. So that's when he can play for them. So they'll be looking forward to that, get some leadership on the pitch. But like I say, he's not going to help them score more goals, really, Thiago Silva, and that's what they really need. But anyway, looking on the game itself, like I said, Grêmio deservedly win as the goal came from a man or a boy really who's been in great form, who we've spoken about before. Gustavinho got the winner, 18 years old and going really, really well. 2 goals in 5 games now for Gustavinho. And it was a nice, well-taken goal from a pullback. And I think Grêmio, like I say, really deserve credit. They're still not playing at home. Like we said last week, they are now back at their training facility in Porto Alegre. Renato Gaucho is still hanging in there. He wasn't he sounded a bit resigned to going, to be fair, last time we spoke. I think the last 2 games have been big for him. They should have maybe beaten Goianense midweek, but they got the point, which was important, I think. And they got the equaliser late on in that game as well. So got a late equaliser, went into this game on the back of that and managed to get the win as well. So things are looking a bit better for Grêmio. And we speak about the market there. It looks like they are... it looked like they could have scored a lot more if they'd had a better striker there. And that's what they're looking at in the market. So Diego Costa hasn't been able to stay fit, and he's going to be out for some time still, I think, till August. So they are looking at strikers. They were looking at Gabigol, who has been announced as is going to leave Flamengo. Palmeiras, I read, were looking at him as well. Both teams have come out and said absolutely not to Gabigol. So for Grêmio, there's a really interesting link, George, which you'll find fascinating as well, I think, who apparently Grêmio was speaking about. It's a player who is currently playing in the Premier League and has been for a long number of years. Michael Antonio of...
Whoa, yeah, the Jamaican man, I think he's... Wow, okay.
He's been at Copa America.
Yeah, of course he has. He's been... Jamaica are out now. I think they've lost in the group stage. I don't know how many games he played. He was in the squad.
All of them, I think. He scored one. He scored for them. He's a starter for them. He did score a goal at Copa America, Antonio. Apparently, he was on the radar, but he has been discarded. So that would have been really interesting. He's a really interesting character, Antonio. Anybody who listens to his podcast he's a kind of a bundle of kind of fun, really. But it doesn't sound like that's.
I like him. Yeah.
Yeah,
I like him. That's just. That's a shame for us because I would have enjoyed to speak and see how he does in the Brasileirão. But somebody's going to get a player here because I don't think he'll be at West Ham next season. I think somebody's going to get a player. He's 34 now.
Yeah, he's not a young player, but he's still got plenty in the tank, and he would have been a hell of a signing for Grêmio. But anyway, for whatever reason, they said no, and it looks like they're going to sign Davison, who's a Cuiabá player, who had a good season at Cuiabá last year. I think he had a bit of a flare-up at Cuiabá, and he's not played since April, Davison. But he's a decent striker, decent stock. And it looks like they've agreed a deal with him, but not yet with Cuiabá. So Grêmio should have a new centre forward, and that should help to propel them up the table a little bit because they're still obviously, although they did win this, they're still second bottom and only third bottom now, 10 points from 11 games. They've got those 2 games in hand, which hopefully will let things look a little bit better for them. But a big win for them and a much needed kind of 3 points.
Yeah, definitely, and that's what the manager just hangs in there. Like you said, he sounded like he was almost resigned to him going there. Obviously, they picked up. They've got a big win against relegation rivals, and they're only a point away from safety in 16th position. So there's plenty of time for them. Looking like they're getting themselves together. It's a massive win for them. Yeah, definitely.
It was. Anyway, let's move on because we spent quite a long time talking about the big stories and the managerial changes, and we'll see how the new Corinthians boss and Menezes will track his progress over the next couple of weeks. He's obviously got a game coming up very quickly to hit the ground running. Let's move on to the awards anyway, George. So, player of the round, a couple of contenders this time. We've already touched on one of them there, Rafa Veiga. I mean, that assist for the free kick, he got 2 assists in that game, didn't he? That you were covering.
He did.
The second one was just a cross in, wasn't it? And then obviously he's got his sending off, but it's good to see him spark into life a little bit finally, isn't it? Actually,
yeah. Look, James, the fans are on his back towards the start of the season. I think the manager was defending him and saying, actually, maybe I shouldn't have played him so much because he wasn't fully fit, maybe. But the fans are on his back, so there'll be it's good to see him because he's a big player in this league, and it was good to see him, show up with a couple of assists. Obviously, he won't play now for a few games. I think it was a straight red card, so we won't see him for 3 matches. But good to see him get on and contribute to a Palmeiras win for a change. To be fair.
Yeah, hopefully that's a turning point because he's a big player. So he was in the running for player of the round. And so was Luciano Neves. Again, our friend Luciano does seem to crop up a lot, doesn't he? And we must talk about, we're going to talk about Sao Paulo, but Luciano is in good form, isn't he, George? Goal and assist in this one and a massive win for them against Bahia, Sao Paulo. But we like Luciano. He seems to keep cropping up with goal contributions, doesn't he?
We like him, James. We do, and I think he's practiced his finishing since that fan asked, said he couldn't do it. Now he can. There's 5 goals and 1 assist in the season so far. It does seem to crop up quite a lot as we're talking about Sao Paulo, and in this game, James. To be honest with you, it was a lovely bit of play from him. Particularly to set up Ferreira, and these two were sort of, I'll set you up, you set me up kind of thing in the game. And the assist for him for that second goal, I think it was, Palmeiras' second goal, just a lovely kind of, he swivels on the ball and then he dinks the ball up to Ferreira. He's obviously seen him running. And it's a great first-time effort into the top corner from Ferreira. His goal was nice play from Ferreira himself, worked his way into the box on the left-hand side. And then Neves kind of took it off his feet and just hit it first time and low into the corner. He's a good player. Him, he's quite sort of late in his career, but he's starting to look quite a tidy little player,
Yeah, Luciano was, like I said, in form, goal and an assist, but he didn't win the player of the round. He could have done, but the quality of the goal and the assist were slightly better from his teammate Ferreira, who George has spoken about there. So Ferreira is the winner of the player of the round, the Talking Brazil Ball player of the round, and on an all-round great day for Sao Paulo, really. So Ferreira, we haven't spoken about in the past at all. So he's a 26-year-old winger. He only joined the club in January after a long number of years at Grêmio. But yeah, he's got 6 goals already this season across all competitions. 7 goals he only got last season, so he's kind of already close to bettering that, which isn't bad, And like you said, it was in particular the assist that he got during this game to wrap the game up at 3-1 was really impressive. Obviously, a very tricky player, good feet, likes to play left and come inside, it looks like. And yeah, the assist, he danced around a couple of players and Luciano buried it. The finish, like you said, George, was great. Well-timed run, and then he arrowed it across the goalie into the top corner from kind of just inside the area on the bounce, wasn't it? What stood out? I mean, you've already kind of covered him there, haven't you? So let's talk about Sao Paulo instead. What did you pick out from this? Because Bahia have been in a heck of a run, haven't they? And this was a really big win for Sao Paulo. It
was, James. And I mean, I'll just speak on Ferreira. You can see that sort of synergy in Luciano and Ferreira's play. They played together at Grêmio just for a season, but maybe they just got on that bit. They knew where each other's. You could tell. I mean, that assist for Ferreira's goal, he just kind of knew where he was. I don't even know if he looked. He just split second and looked up. It was just like, yeah, you're going to be there, and he just finished it really well first time. But yeah, massive win for Sao Paulo, James, because yeah, they hit a little bit of a snag, didn't they? A few games without a win, and we kind of were sort of thinking, what Zubeldia made out of, and they've come back with with a couple of wins, a massive win over Bahia. Bahia, I've been obviously internally, extremely impressed with Bahia, as many people have this season, and they just went and beat them fairly comfortably in the end, to be fair. And it was one of them days for Bahia. Obviously, they're not going to win all of them. They're batting well above the weight as it is. But yeah, you've got to say Sao Paulo, I like them. I tipped them at the start of the season to be a little bit of a surprise package, James. And I think that they'll prove that to me. I think they'll get the Libertadores places possibly.
Yeah, they've got a good one. Well, a big one coming up next away at Atletico Paranense, which they're fifth. So Paranense are fifth, Sao Paulo is sixth in the table at the minute. So that'll be kind of a yardstick to see who's going to push on into the top four. But yeah, in terms of that race as well, this was a big win for Sao Paulo. But here, obviously, occupying fourth at the minute, like you said, going incredibly well. And they're not going to win them all. I mean, it can be easy to get carried away with these kind of teams early on in the season, but inevitably they do revert to some kind of a mean. And like you said, they're not going to be able to win all of them. It's a really tough place to go. The Marumbis, they call it, the Sao Paulo Stadium. And they've been really tough to beat, despite those two losses. Obviously, Zubeldia has had them in incredibly good form. So I like them as well. I think they look like a well-balanced team, and they look like they've got goals. They look like they've got a little bit of stardust. And I think they've got a very good manager there as well. So I think you're right. We're going to see big things from Sao Paulo. And Bahia, no need to worry. Seni's obviously doing a fantastic job. And his subs maybe just didn't quite work this time, did they?
Well, that I'm a big fan of him and his substitutions, James. But yeah, it didn't work this time. He seemed to make the same ones pretty much every game. I mean, Bahil, is it Bahil? Teixeira, he always seems to come on, and Estupinian and Santos, and they all did, in this game, and they didn't make any difference. But I think Sao Paulo, like you said, they've got that little bit of quality, which, is going to see to teams like Bahia eventually, although they have done very well so far this season. They will have games like this because they're coming up against better quality, really, and this was definitely one of them days.
Yep, one of those days, Sao Paulo's day, this one, and the player of the round winner goes to Ferreira. I don't know if he's got a first name, Ferreira. I didn't see one. He's just called Ferreira, which is just good.
Looks. Yeah, I mean, it's it's simple, isn't it? I suppose.
Ferreira Rocher.
Yeah, well, perhaps we messed up on that one, James. We could have had a box of Ferreira Rochers to celebrate him winning.
Yeah, a bit spenny though, aren't they, these days?
Well, to be fair, yes, they're nice though, aren't they? But yeah, they are expensive. Well, everything is nowadays.
That's true. Maybe we'll get some at the end of the season, or if Mr. Ferreira Rocher.
Perhaps if you win the predictions, James, that might be what I have to get you, a box of Ferreira Rocher.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. One of those big pyramids of them. Yeah, that'll do nicely.
You're pushing your luck now a bit, but maybe
get saving now. Anyway, let's move
Absolutely, I'm gonna have to.
Yeah. Let's move on to the young player of the round, and we've already touched on a couple of these already, Joe. Well, actually, no, we haven't, because you were very tactful and did well to avoid the winner, who anybody who's been following the Brasileirão this week is probably aware of a new talent on the radar who is going to win this award. But Gustavo Gomez, I just want to mention again, like I said, 2 goals in 5, and he's been really helping Grêmio out of their sticky situation. Another young player who did well this week was a chap called Luca Drummond, which is an English name, really, Drummond. But he's a 20-year-old kind of forward. He got an assist, which wasn't anything really to shout about, but a goal kind of contribution for him. But the eventual winner, George, who was determined this morning by one flick of the head, was Vitor Reis, who was featured in your game of the week for Palmeiras. Another brilliant young talent on the books at Palmeiras, George. Palmeiras. What can you tell us about Vitor Rice?
Well, yeah, not a great deal actually, James. But yeah, I mean, it was his first start of for his home. I think he's obviously come through at Palmeiras in the academy. He's a Brazilian under-17 international. I think just this year. I mean, he's halfway turned 18. He's halfway to being 90 in January. Is his birthday. So yeah, he only made his debut in the midweek loss to Fortaleza. Played 16 minutes of that defeat. And he played the full 90. He started the game, full 90 minutes, scored the goal, which was, well taken, header. But there's not a great deal, James. I don't think I really can say about this young lad. I mean, I'm sure we'll get to know as the weeks progress. But I actually read his name wrong this morning when I seen it. I thought his name was Victor Reis, but Vitor Reis is him. So
He helped.
interesting.
He certainly helped Palmeiras to victories today, didn't he?
Well, yes, he did. I look forward to more of them as the weeks go on from you.
Well, there isn't anymore because that's not his name. He's called Vitor Reis. I can tell you a little more about him. Actually, he is actually the captain of the Brazilian international in under-17. So he's the captain of those. He's the captain of the Palmeiras youth team. He is a big leader within the young the academy. It seems like he was named in the top 60 to watch of players born in 2006 by The Guardian, of all places, who tend to know what they're on about with these kind of things. So, yeah, top talents born in 2006, if you can believe that, George. Although actually it's not. I mean, we see Lamine Yamal and those kind of players. They were born. I think he was born in 2008, Lamine Yamal. But, Vitor Rice, slightly later bloomer, 18, though, only 18. And yeah, apparently he's very, very highly rated within the kind of the Palmeiras setup. So not a new name for probably, hardcore followers maybe who do get to know these youngsters before they kind of break into the team. But yeah, a first start at centre-back, no less. It's not like you can go hiding up the top of the pitch. You've got to do your diligence. You've got to perform and stand up. And there's no real hiding place for young players as defenders. I think his centre-back partner is a very young player as well. I can't remember his name. Naves, is it? He's only 22, I think. So they had a very young partnership at the back for this game. But yeah, Vitor Rice looks like one who's going to be one who we talk about again, like Estevao. Hopefully they can keep him, a bit longer. But I think it doesn't tend to be that clubs snap up the kind of young centre backs quite as quickly. But you look at someone like Murillo, for example, at Forest. So somebody's radar will have already been going off this morning, and they'll have probably been in contact already or something.
I'm sure, yeah, people's phones will be buzzing after he scored that goal. It's Kaiki Neves. He's only 22, James, but he's a lot more experienced in the shirt than Reis is. He's 29 appearances. He made his debut in 2021. So yeah, he's a little bit older. He was what, 19 maybe when he. No, he wasn't. He was younger than that. I don't know how old he was when he made his debut, but he's had a lot to say. I mean, Reis himself, he had something to say on it on social media after the game. And he said, "Those who have God don't count on luck," with a little praying emoji and the green heart. Important victory for the group. First goal with this shirt. So he was very happy. I think there's a picture as well of him getting congratulated, or a little video of him getting congratulations. I think he got man of the match or some kind of award.
Yeah, he got applauded by the team in the kind of the bowels of the stadium. The whole team were clapping and cheering for him, which was a nice touch. And he, the goal itself was quite straightforward, wasn't it? It was just a header from a corner at the near post. Really, nothing mega special, but obviously, for me, in terms of a defender, you don't look at the goals. Obviously, you're going to look at the performance. He's kept a clean sheet. And I know what Neves has played 22 games, 29 games. It's not a lot, really. So, it's a young partnership coming up together and doing really well. So he's a young player of the round. this time, and some stiff competition from Gustavinho, I would say. But another name for us to keep an eye on, George. We always like to see these young talents coming through, and maybe we'll start seeing those links to Chelsea inevitably before long.
Oh yeah, I mean it's obvious, James, that it's going to happen at some stage, isn't it? But I think Gustavino is going to be knocking on our doors, James, and asking some questions really, because he came second, I think, to Estavio not too long ago as well.
Last
So
week.
he'll be thinking, was it last week? So he'll be thinking, what can he do to get that award? And maybe next week he will keep going, fella. You'll get it one day, maybe.
Well, what I would say to that is actually he was third last week because Cuyabano was second. So he was in bronze position.
Yes.
This week he's silver. What have you got for us next week, Gustavinho? Bronze, silver, gold. It's got to be a couple of goals next week, boss. You'll get it sorted. But anyway,
shots fired.
Well, no, I said, what do you mean shots fired? I didn't fire any shots. I told him that keep going and he'll win it. That's the opposite of shots fired, isn't
it? Fair enough.
You're going to start
keep going.
Some kind of war, right? Yeah.
No, keep going, keep winning, they won so as well. So that was important for him as well. But I think, given the sort of first start, the first goal for Reece, I think we had to kind of give it to him this time.
Yeah, we did. Like I said, the other young player, let's just cover quickly. There's not a lot to say about Luka Drummond. I mean, I couldn't find a lot of information about him as well. But Inter, again, we spoke about them quickly at the top there, have just stumbled a little bit. But on the other side of that, I mean, this was against Criciúma, and Criciúma just keep kind of steadily picking up points, don't they? We haven't spoken too much about Criciúma at all, George, but I just wanted to pick them out because they're 13th. They've only played 11 still. And, the 2 points above the relegation zone, everybody below them, barring Grêmio, have played 2 more than them. So I just wanted to give them a shout out, really, and show some love to Claudio Tencati because we haven't done too much of that so far, but another good result for them.
Yeah, look, like you said, they're quietly going about the business of Criciúma. They had a little bit of a wobble, I think, where they lost a couple heavy defeats in a row, and then they've picked up since only 1 defeat in the last 5 games, James. So, and they've won 2 of them, and that's fine for them, isn't it? Just keep the head above the relegation zone, what the 2 points ahead of it, like you said. So, yeah, look, they're going nicely. I know you're a fan of the colours that they wear as well. And a player that I've been quite impressed with on the quiet is the man named Kijk, who seems to, he's got 3 goals already this season. So he seems a little bit of a marksman as well. So, yeah, it's good to see a promotion side doing quite well. Obviously, Juventude are 1 place above them and 3 points ahead of them. But the other 2 are kind of on the way to the relegation zone. So it's good to see that they've come up and done well. Because this is the first, I think it's the first Serie A season in about 10 years or something like that. Even more. Sorry, I think it's 10 years, yeah. So, yeah, they're doing all right.
Yeah, they are. They've got a goalie called Allison as well, actually, who's not the main goalie, but hopefully we don't mix him up one day.
You hope it's not. You hope it's not. He might have got transferred.
He might have been transferred to Criciúma as a backup keeper. I mean, that would be something else. But, yeah, hopefully there hasn't been some kind of swap deal gone on there. If there has, maybe we'll take Kaiki. Maybe he can come to the Premier League and start banging in the goals. But, yeah, I do like Criciúma. I like the colours, the Tigers. They're a good little team. But anyway, let's move on because we are eating up time and we're looking at the goal of the round already, George. There was a fairly straightforward winner. I mean, you called the winner of this one before anything else had been kicked, really. There was 7 games left when you called the winner of this. But there were a couple watching them back, a couple of really quite good goals, I thought, this week anyway. One that I really liked was Pedro's. I know you really like Pedro, don't you, Flamengo? And it was a really kind of classy finish. I've never really seen a goal like that, I don't think. Gerson kind of marauded through the midfield, kind of flipped it into his path, and it was a really measured, side-footed finish, really controlled, but in such a way that it really was an elegant finish. And he's purring along well now. 6 goals, top scorer of the league. Obviously, Flamengo top of the division. So I really like that one. I just wanted to mention that one before we moved on. Was there any that caught your eye? Any other ones? There were a couple that I liked as well beyond Pedro's.
There seemed a lot of first-time finishers, James, in this sort of round of goals. And yeah, I like that Pedro one. It was lovely from Gerson. Kind of took it from the halfway line, didn't he? And kind of popped it off to Pedro, who like swept it in first time in the bottom corner. And he, like you said, I do like him. I like Gerson as well. Flamengo going to push Palmeiras hard, I think, for the title. But I think the Sao Paulo goals as well, like we covered the Ferreira one, for me, was extremely nice as well. I don't think past that really, James. I think they were all pretty sort of standard from my point of view, really, I thought.
There was a nice one in the Cuiabá game, which obviously that we're going to speak about, but the opener for Cuiabá, Derek Lacerda, that was a nice first-time finish as well.
Yes.
Drilled finish. And then also Luis Fernando, who got the goal of the round a couple of weeks back for Goianiense with an absolute thunder bastard. He got a bit more of a gentle goal this week with a little dink over the keeper, so he can show he can do whatever you want. He can absolutely blast one into the net. He can dink one gently over the keeper. So yeah, Luis Fernando, we spoke about him in terms of being a decent goal scorer for Goianiense. He's got 3 goals already, and they got a really good point against Gallo as well, George. So another good result for them.
Yeah, actually, I did. I forgot about that one, James, until you said about it. But yeah, I did enjoy that one. It was like again, it was a really good assist from whoever played it across to him, and it was like in his own half, and he just sort of spotted Fernando, and he just kind of dinked it first time again over the goalkeeper. I mean, on another day that would have won it, to be fair. But I think this one that wins it is, like I said, I called it very, very early. I didn't think it was going to be beaten, and obviously you'd agreed as well. So, yeah, I mean, do you want to line it up, James, for...
Yeah, why not? I mean, it was a heck of a goal, and it's a goal that you don't see very often. So it's a man we've spoken about numerous times in the last couple of weeks, Helinho, George, or Helio Junior, as we've been referring to him as. But apparently he is Helinho, they call him, Red Bull Bragantino forward. I think he won player of the round, I think, a couple of weeks back, and he could have won goal of the round for a quite brilliant goal where he popped it through the defender's legs and then bent in across a shot to the back stick. What he has won it for this week is even better. I mean, it's a standing goal. It's a goal from a standing kind of start. He doesn't run up. He takes it on his left foot with one touch. He swings his leg back as if he's looking for a pass, kind of hesitates for a moment, and then just kind of blasts it in the net from probably 25 yards. And yeah, you don't see power generated like that from that kind of position very often.
No, it was a brilliant goal, James. Like I said, I called it earlier, so that's not going to be beaten. Obviously, it wasn't. He's in really, really good form, but it was a fantastic. Like you said, he received the ball, and then you could see look for a pass, and think, sod it, there's nothing on. I'm just going to whack it in, and he did. He's actually got 4 goals in his last 5 games and an assist to boot with that as well. So he's on very, very good form. 2 assists and 4 goals in his last 6. He's doing well, and he's one to have a look at, James, definitely. But I think Bragantino as a team just seem a little bit up and down, really. Sort of win one, lose one, draw one, win one. Can't seem to get any form going, really, and that's probably why they're sort of sitting sort of mid-table again, and all the way down to 12th, James, get the continental places, don't they? So you could probably back them for that, but I think they'd probably want to be a little bit further up than 9th at this current moment. But Julio Helinho, or Julinho, what did he call him, James?
Helinho,
he seems like a bit of a star in their team, and at the moment, yeah, he's on really, really good form. So definitely want to watch. Like you said, he got the player of the round for his 2 goals against Juventude a couple of weeks ago. So one to watch. Definitely. He's only 24 still.
Yeah, he's probably slightly slightly too old to go into the Red Bull system, you'd imagine, kind of Salzburg and Leipzig path. He's possibly a couple of years beyond that, but maybe Salzburg will ever come in and look for him, because they do sometimes go for slightly older players through the system. But to me, he looks like he's slightly older than that, but he might get a good move somewhere anyway, because he is in good form.
Well, James, not to sort of self kind of promote, but if anybody wants to have a look at it, I did do a video for my other channel, the Leeds channel I do, the Bearded Peacock, on the Red Bull, because we've obviously just got a stake, Red Bull have bought a small stake in Leeds, on 5 players I think Leeds United should buy in the Red Bull system, and I picked out this fella here as one of the 5. So one to have a look at if you get the chance.
Well, there you go. Maybe you'll end up at Leeds. I've forgotten about that, actually. But yeah, you're right. Leeds have now got a link as well. And just in the Championship might be the right environment, although a difficult environment, could be the one. So maybe one for you to watch for sure, George, and other Leeds fans perhaps who are listening. So well done to Helinho. He's in a real good run of form, and he deserves that goal of the round, because it was a real belter from a standing start. No kind of run up or anything, just pinged it beyond the keeper, and a lovely, lovely goal. So that concludes the awards, George. For another week, flies past, doesn't it? And lots that we haven't kind of been able to cover really. That went on in that kind of game week. There was some kind of other interesting results, but we can't cover everything every time. We want to give focus to what we're focusing on, and not just kind of spread it too thin. So we'll have a look towards what we're doing next week. We'll try and cover perhaps some different teams, possibly. Again, there's 2 game weeks. So do you want to tell us what we've got to look forward to over the next 7 days before we round off with the table?
Yeah, absolutely, James. Again, it would be my pleasure. So, like you said, there's 2 game weeks again. The fixtures just keep rolling on, don't they? And the game week, I think it's 16 now, starts tomorrow evening or tomorrow night English time. Cuiabá face Botafogo at 11 p.m. English time. Into Thursday, the 4th of July, then midnight at UK time. Criciúma host Cruzeiro, and Vasco da Gama host Fortaleza. 1:30 a.m. Atletico Paranaense face Sao Paulo, and Galo face Flamengo. Also at the same time, RB Bragantino host Atletico GO. 11 p.m. English time. Then on Thursday the 4th of July, Bahia host Juventude, and Grêmio play Palmeiras. Into early doors Friday morning here, then midnight, Corinthians face Vitória, and Fluminense host Internacional. Into Matchday 17, which we'll be covering, James. Sunday the 7th of July, 1 a.m, Flamengo face Cuiabá, Sao Paulo face RB Bragantino. Then into 8 o'clock on the same day, Cruzeiro hosts Corinthians, Fortaleza hosts Fluminense, and Juventude play Grêmio. 10 o'clock then English time, Inter play Vasco da Gama. 10:30, and this rounds up the game week, James. 3 games at 10:30 on Sunday the 7th of July. Sorry, it doesn't round up the game week, but Atletico GO host Atletico Paranaense, Palmeiras play Bahia, and Vitória host Criciúma. Then to wrap up the game week, is Botafogo against Galo. That is early doors Monday, the 8th of July.
Yeah.
So lots to cover, James, as always. Two game weeks. So if everybody can keep up with that, then good luck to you. But there you go.
Yeah, that's it. Lots to look forward to. I don't think we quite fully decided on the games of the round. I think we'll have another look at it and just decide, because there is one derby in there, Juventude against Grêmio, but we have covered Grêmio quite a bit recently. So I think we'll have another look, George, and just have a look, because there are a couple of quite attractive games in there. So we'll have another look at that and just decide later on, and it'll be a bit of a surprise for everybody to hear what we've gone for.
Fair enough. Yeah, I like the sound of some games, James, here, actually. And there's one in particular that that my attention is drawn to immediately, really. But like you said, we'll keep it as a surprise, perhaps, for the listeners for next week.
Now, what's that one? Is it Botafogo Galo or is it Palmeiras Bahia?
No, well, you got me there. It's Botafogo Galo. I think that'll be a good game, that one.
Yeah, Battle of the Black Badges, isn't it, those two?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Botafogo as well. We haven't spoken them at all this week, James. But they tick on. They're only 3 points off the top. So by that point, if they can, get on, maybe they can go top with a win there. Who knows? But we do need to. I don't know if you've forgotten, James. Just focus quickly. The Copa America is still going on, and Brazil have played since we last spoke, haven't they, Jamesy? A 4-1 thumping of Paraguay. Vinicius came to the table as many thought he would in this game. 2 goals for him in a 4-1 win. Savio, who has been, I think, has put the seal on his move to Man City today. He got a goal, and then Lucas Paqueta, the West Ham player, scored a penalty in the second half. So they're basically through, James. As of recording, they play early hours of tomorrow morning, 2 a.m. English time against Colombia. And if they win this game, then they surely win the group. Well, they do win the group, by a point. They could still go out if Costa Rica do beat Paraguay and Colombia thrash Brazil, but Colombia have to win by a hefty margin as well. So it was a big win for them. They will play, if they do win the group, they will play Panama, Thomas Christensen's Panama, in the quarterfinals. So interesting to keep an eye on them.
Yeah, well done, George. I had forgotten about the Copa America, but I have been covering it as well. So it is, like you said, it's a huge game this tomorrow morning, because it is winner takes all, and it really is worth winning that group, because, as you say, the winners of it do play Panama, who were kind of shock runners up. They kind of knocked USA out in terms of the group. And the runners-up of the group face Uruguay, who are looking pretty fearsome under Bielsa. So you don't want to be facing Uruguay at this stage. So I think both of those teams will be doing what they can. I mean, Colombia just need a draw. So Brazil have to win to top the group. And Colombia need a draw. Any other result, basically, and Colombia will top the group. So it is worth winning that group. It's worth keeping an eye on that. I've got a feeling that it'll probably end up being a draw, to be honest, and Brazil will have to play Uruguay, which could be, a really difficult game. But that's a good point. Something to look forward to. And we look forward to the transfer window opening, which I think opens just after our next show. So we might have a quick look at that next week as well. And just in the meantime, though, George, just to round up today's episode, do you want to just run through the table quickly, and then we'll call it a day?
Well, again, James, it would be a pleasure of mine to do so. So, top of the table is Flamengo on 27 points. Second is Palmeiras, a point behind on 26. In third, 2 points further back, is Botafogo on 24. On the same amount of points in fourth is Bahia. Fifth is Atletico Paranaense on 22. Sixth is Sao Paulo on 21. Seventh is Cruzeiro on 20. Also on 20 is Fortaleza in 8th. In 9th is RB Bragantino on 19 points. 18 points sees Inter in 10th. Also 18 points, like you covered earlier, James, Galo in 11th. Into 12th position, Juventude on 16 points. 13th is Criciúma on 13 points. 14th is Cuiabá, also on 13 points. 15th is Vitória on 12 points. 16th and 1 place above the relegation zone, Vasco da Gama on 11 points. Also on 11 points and into the relegation zone is Atletico GO in 17th. 18th is Grêmio on 10 points. 19th is Corinthians on 9 points. And as we know, James, propping up the pile in 20th position, Fluminense on a terrible 6 points.
Yeah, there you go. So Flu have a lot of work to do, as do Grêmio, although they've started that rebuilding process. Let's see what the week brings. George, plenty can change between now and then with 2 games. But in the meantime, thank you everybody for listening. And we'll see you again, won't we, George?
Yeah, we'll see you again, James. Enjoy the week of football, everybody, and you too, James. Adios.
Yeah, I do to everybody. Enjoy what's left of the Euros. Enjoy that Copa America. We'll see you soon.
Talking Brazil ball, we're breaking it down. Bringing the passion from every town. Let the world be filled with love tonight. Sway to the beat, make you feel so right. Summer, summer vibes, we're dancing in the heat. Go, go, go. Can't be beat, talking Brazil ball, spreading love in every way. In the sound of paradise, we're here to stay.